Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. Guys, today I am going to be giving you guys 5 league-winning running backs that you must own, and I am going to start with the first player on my list, and that is Saquon Barkley. Now, this is the most impressive running back we've seen in like the last decade, as far as his just raw talent and athleticism. His abilities are second to none. We know that on any given season, this guy can come in and be the number one running back in all of fantasy football. The problem just has been like he's had no offensive line for quite some time. He's had tons of injury problems, and those injury problems are probably very much because of the fact that he hasn't had much of an offensive line. I mean, when you're a sitting duck, it's easy to get hurt all the time. So, um, that coupled with the fact that, look, he is 2 years removed from his major injury to his ACL. And on top of that, he now has a better offensive line than he's really ever had in his entire career. Look, with a bad offensive line, this dude has averaged 4.5 yards a carry and still been very, very efficient and impressive, like we knew he would be. Now he has a better offensive line than he's ever had. And he's actually got some other weapons around him to help draw some defensive attention off him. I mean, we know that Kadarius Toney actually has the upside to be a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy this year if he can stay healthy and on the field. And, we've got other guys like Sterling Shepard and Kenny Golladay to help the offense be more efficient as a whole. And with all of these factors being the case, if Saquon Barkley can actually stay healthy, his upside is the running back one in fantasy. We just need him to actually stay healthy and on the field. That's a lot more likely this year because he has a better offensive line. He has other offensive weapons around him. I mean, keep in mind that last year there was a time where everyone on this Giants team was hurt. Daniel Jones was hurt. Kadarius Toney was out. Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, they all missed time. And because of this, Saquon, when he played and those guys were out, was just an absolute sitting duck. Teams were stacking the box to stop him, and they knew that the Giants didn't have any other offensive weapon besides Saquon. Now he has other offensive weapons to help him. He is healthier than he's been in years because it's been a long time since he had any major injuries. The offensive line is now by far better than it's been in his entire career. If he was the number one running back in fantasy this year, I would not be surprised. Next player on my list is going to be James Conner. Now, this is a guy who 3 out of the 6 weeks last year where Chase Edmonds didn't play was a top 5 running back in fantasy. This dude has the outside shot to be a top 5 running back. I talked about this in my last video. Look, this is a guy who's extremely talented, and he is a better pass catching back than a lot of people like to give him credit for. It's just that he's never really had the opportunity to be a volume hog in the passing game. Now that Chase Edmonds is gone, he is going to have all of the work in this backfield. He's going to catch a ton of passes. He is going to rush extremely efficiently like he always does. He has the chance to lead the NFL in touchdowns. He was third in the NFL in touchdowns last year. The offense is maybe going to be even better for the Cardinals this year. He's going to have plenty of scoring opportunities. He's got great big playability. This dude has the potential to be a top 5 running back, and he's going as like the 15th running back off the board. He is a massive steal in the draft right now, and he is one of the best values at the running back position. Next player on my list is going to be Aaron Jones. Now, everybody knows how big I am on Aaron Jones. I've talked about him a lot this offseason. And look, I even talked about him in my last must-own running back videos, but I just cannot stress the importance of this enough. This is a guy who, when Davante Adams doesn't play, is by far and away the best running back in fantasy. I mean, during his years with the Packers, there were 8 games where Davante Adams didn't play. In those games, Aaron Jones averaged over 25 fantasy points per game. His targets within the red zone go up. His carries within the red zone go up. His overall touchdowns, scored within the red zone goes up. And look, there was one game last year, if you want, just an example from last year where Davante Adams didn't play. That was the game where they played against the Arizona Cardinals. That was the one game where Aaron Jones saw double-digit targets out of the backfield. There are going to be weeks where this guy sees double-digit targets. It's going to happen more often than you would think. He is going to be an absolute PPR monster. He's going to get in the end zone like crazy. This is a guy who's averaged over 5 yards per carry in his career. He is one of the most efficient running backs in the entire NFL, and he's always slept on as far as his overall talent and, fantasy greatness. But this is a running back that has an outside shot to finish as the number 1 running back in fantasy, and I know people are going to disagree with me on that because he's part of a split backfield with A.J. Dillon, but he's always been part of a split backfield, and even in the years where Jamal Williams was getting a lot of work behind him, he still put up super awesome fantasy numbers and, had weeks where he finished with 35 to 40 fantasy points. He gives you a tremendous weekly ceiling, an awesome season-long overall potential for fantasy points, and, the ceiling is amazing on the season, and he has a way bigger floor than people give him credit for. He is going to have very few bust weeks. Next player on my list is going to be Kareem Hunt. This is a guy who every single season goes way later in the draft than Nick Chubb. And it's just crazy to me because, it only takes until about week 3 or 4 for Kareem Hunt to start being ranked ahead of Nick Chubb in weekly PPR rankings. So why is he drafted 40 spots later? This is one of the craziest things in fantasy that I will just never understand. Why Kareem Hunt gets drafted so much later than Nick Chubb, it always blows my mind. But the fact of the matter is, he is, just like he is every year, by far a better draft value than Nick Chubb. I'm not saying to fade Nick Chubb altogether, but I'm going to be fading Nick Chubb in most of my drafts and just waiting for Kareem Hunt. This is a guy who steals all of Nick Chubb's touchdown scoring opportunities. He dominates in the second half of games when more points are scored, because we all know that more points are scored in the second half of NFL games than they are in the first half. His big play ability is second to none. This is quite literally the most talented backup running back of all time. I mean, name me a better backup running back than Kareem Hunt. There is none. He's the best backup running back I've ever seen. And, he's going to go off this season and be a top 10 fantasy running back like he always is, as long as he can stay healthy and on the field. And he's being drafted in like the 7th or 8th round of the draft. Incredible draft value. Next player on my list, final player I have here is Ramondre Stevenson. If you look at all the advanced metrics from last season, you can tell that Ramondre Stevenson is actually one of the more talented rookie running backs that we've ever seen. I mean, this dude came in and just absolutely lit the league on fire when he had his opportunities. And, he's running behind Damian Harris, but we saw late in the season last year that this is a split backfield. It's not, a Batman and Robin situation or a backup running back situation. Ramondre Stevenson is going to see almost just as much work as Damian Harris, and he's going to see even more work in the passing game. So I would argue that these two running backs are exactly equal in fantasy value. The only thing that makes Damian Harris as valuable as Ramondre Stevenson is the fact that he's going to get goal line carries. But we're sitting here talking about why the lead running back is more valuable than the backup running back, and it should be vice versa. So Ramondre Stevenson is one of the more valuable backs in the draft because he just comes at such a tremendous draft value, being drafted in the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round. And so I would get your hands on this guy. I think he's going to be a huge breakout player this season. His PPR upside is through the roof. And, I'm definitely going to grab Ramondre Stevenson in as many of my leagues as I can because I think he's going to be a big-time league-winning player. All right, guys. Appreciate you tuning into the video. I will catch you later.